Again, in my literally like a kitchen. On Wednesday, the 23rd of June, the Gauteng Provincial Legislature convened a virtual sector parliament for the youth of Gauteng. Now, through the youth sector parliament, youth were afforded a platform to engage directly with the Gauteng executive and policymakers representing their peers from across 5 Gauteng regions. Debates and recommendations were centered on how quality of life can be improved for the youth of Gauteng, focusing on innovative service delivery initiatives that involve the youth themselves. We've invited 4 panelists to join us today who were part of the engagement that took place 2 days ago. 45 youths engaged directly with Gauteng, focusing on innovative service delivery initiatives that involve the youth themselves. Through Youth Sector Parliament, 45 youths engaged directly with the Gauteng executive and policymakers representing their peers from across 5 Gauteng regions. As Gauteng in the country, oh, okay. So this is what I'll do. As Gauteng, on Wednesday, the 23rd of June, the Gauteng Provincial Legislature convened a virtual sector parliament for the youth of Gauteng. Through Youth Sector Parliament, 45 youths were afforded a platform to engage directly with the Gauteng executive and policymakers representing their peers from across 5 Gauteng regions. Thank you, Manna. Debates and recommendations were centered on how quality of life can be improved for the youth of Gauteng, focusing on innovative service delivery initiatives that involve the youth themselves. As Gauteng and the country grapple with soaring youth unemployment, violence against women, economic exclusion, and COVID-19, this platform presented an opportunity for GPL to engage robustly with the youth directly to solicit their recommendations on how these can be addressed.
I've just left the meeting. You don't see my name on your screen anymore.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. On Wednesday, the virtual sector parliament, a public platform for the youth of the province to debate and recommend their own solutions to socio-economic challenges facing them. The virtual event focused on 3 main themes. The first, assessing the impact of COVID-19, the pandemic on the healthcare system in Gauteng. The second being assessing the response of GP in relation to GBV faced by young women. So Genia, at 10, must I just start the conversation?
I'm hoping everyone is there because we can't start with nobody.
What I'm saying is I must start
Yes,
it.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
so I must welcome
yes,
everybody.
Welcome, and then you
So it's listeners, it's our Kai 959 listeners.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. So I'm not waiting for someone else to say,
No.
So okay, literally I'm going ahead with it. Okay.
We just start. Have they put in their names? Because the last time I thought it was GP something.
Yeah, GP Austrian.
Do you think they all could be in the same room, perhaps?
What's that? Me, I'm the least technological person in the world.
Because GPS stream, how are you going to know who you're talking to now?
No? Okay, that's okay. At least it's one by one. Yeah.
Hi, Church. Do you know if your people have logged in? What's the story? We can see on the screen GPL stream, but we don't know who that is. I think it will be only fair if we can see the names of the participants, as in the panelists, and their faces. There's Matome, somebody. Okay. Yeah, you can give someone the GPL number.
All right, so, okay. All right, that's fine.
Matome. Okay, cool. And then, I was thinking,
Good morning, Chairman.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
I'm very good.
My name is Ona, and I'm honored to be hosting you this morning on behalf of Kai 959.
No, thank you. I'm honored as well to be on Kaya this morning.
Thank you. How was Wednesday? Was it fruitful?
Yeah, it was quite interesting. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. And they've briefed me, and just to make sure that we're on the same page, I'm going to introduce basically the premise of today and touch on the 3 themes, the major themes that you covered on Wednesday. Then I'm going to introduce each one of you 4 panelists individually, and then I start with you with 3 questions.
Okay, look, no, they didn't give me that briefing. Remember, this was their parliament.
Yes.
Their parliament, so they were the debaters of those 2 issues. I was the moderator at the time, obviously. Yes. Yeah, so maybe if it's to get a sense on, from me, just to get a sense on the sector parliament, the way forward, you know.
Yeah, so the 3 questions is, what is exactly the youth sector parliament? Can you explain that to us? What service it provides and the intent? Why is it necessary, obviously, and why do we have to keep on revisiting it? And then what happens? You know, it can't just be a talk fest. What are the resolutions and the recommendations, and what are we going to do with those recommendations and the resolutions?
No, I think that one is quite fine. Yes, that's my.
Okay?
Yes. It's supposed to be their day, you know.
Yeah, completely.
Yes, it's their day. It's not necessarily mine, but you know, as a lawmaker, I should be here, you know, so that they know that they are speaking to those who are in the executive.
Exactly, and that you're listening.
Yeah. Okay, that shouldn't be a problem.
Thank you so much. We'll catch up shortly.
Okay, okay, thanks.
I'm putting us on mute now.
Sisu, can you hear me? Okay, yeah, just say
I can hear you.
Yeah, it's the bang
who is
over
this
here.
gift?
No, it's the bang. You good?
The bang, hi, my love, I'm great. How are you?
I'm well, I'm well. Just letting you know that we'll start the stream on YouTube in the next 3 minutes. We're just finalizing the co-hosts.
Do we have all the co-hosts? Will you let me know?
Soon, I'll confirm with you now. Give me a minute, please. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, my love. I'll keep my mic on so you can hear me.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Osborne. Can you please unmute your mic? Hello, Osborne. Please unmute your mic.
Osborne, can you unmute your mic, please? Tabang, is everybody standing by?
Seems so, yes. We're just finalizing the last panelist and we'll be good.
Good morning.
Yeah, there's Osborne. We're good to go.
Noluvuyo, hi.
Hello.
Johnny.
Okay.
Njani?
Yaphila usemhle ntombi.
Enkosi ngiyabulela.
Let me just confirm with you, Noluvuyo. Kutheni igama lakho lingekho apha nje?
Ngoba kunovuyo kanye ngivuyokazi.
Yeah, sana sunbhida vuyokazi. Ufuna ndikubize bani? Ufuna ndikubize Noluvuyo kanye uvuyokazi?
Uvuyokazi.
Ufuna ndikubize uvuyokazi, ne?
Ngiyacela.
Okay, good. You're going to be the second speaker after chairperson wethu, ne?
Ewe.
And to confirm, you focused on COVID, obviously, the impact, healthcare, and how we can improve the system up in Gauteng.
Ewe, yes.
Okay. All the best, Ava.
Ndinaxesha ngakanani lo tata?
It's up to you. How long do you need? We've got an hour for all of you, and there are 4 panelists.
Okay.
Do you want to present, or do you want me to do it back and forth with you? Do you prefer I just leave you open and then you present? Can I ask you questions as you're going along if there are things I want you to elaborate on?
Yes, yes, please.
That's
That would be
fine.
good. That's
And
fine.
just up distractor.
Ewe, Nkosi.
Okay. Osborne, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Good morning.
Can you put your video on, please, so our listeners can see you?
Unfortunately, I've got a technical issue. Whenever I put on my video, it just has network problems.
You understand this is a YouTube debate?
Yes, I very well understand. I was told earlier on that it's going to be a telephonical interview. Sorry about that.
Well, you'll apologize to our viewers when we go live, okay?
All right, no problem.
Just to confirm with you, we are focusing on GBV in the province, ne? That's what your
Correct.
presentation was.
Yes.
Gabelo, are you there? The bang we see, is that the last panelist you were trying to get hold of? Tabang?
Yes, it's you.
Was that the last panelist you're trying to get hold of?
Yeah, we're trying to get a hold of them right now.
Can we go ahead, because we're 2 minutes late and we don't want to make our audience wait. It's not the most respectful thing to do.
Okay, count down in 10 seconds.
Okay, give us at least 20. I mean, really, brother.
Okay. 20 seconds.
Hold on. Is everybody ready? You ready, Mr. Chirwane?
Yes, I'm ready.
Ms. Mukhala, you ready?
Yes, I am.
Osborne, you ready?
Yes, definitely.
Good luck, everybody. You can count us down now, the band.
All right, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Still saying meeting.
We are live.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your attention, because the issues we're going to discuss are pertinent ones, and they're ones that affect us all up in the Gauteng province. I'd like to officially welcome you to the Gauteng Legislature Youth Sector Parliament Roundtable discussion. My name is Onati, hosting on behalf of Kaya 959, because we are on the street and on the air. Wednesday was a very prolific day for the Gauteng Provincial Legislature as it convened a virtual sector parliament for the youth of Gauteng. Through the youth sector parliament, 45 youths were afforded a platform to engage directly with the Gauteng executive and policymakers representing their peers from across 5 Gauteng regions. Debates and recommendations were centered on how quality of life can be improved for the youth of Gauteng, focusing on innovative service delivery initiatives that involve the youth themselves. Now, at the country's most pertinent issues as Gauteng and the country, we grapple with soaring unemployment levels, violence against women, economic exclusion, and COVID-19. And this platform presented an opportunity for GPL to engage directly and robustly so with the youth to solicit their recommendations on how these can be addressed and how our situations can be improved.
This meeting is being recorded.
On the current dispensation of the country, and this is why this conversation was important. It took place virtually and it was convened for the virtual sector parliament. The public platform was open for the youth of the province to debate and recommend their own solutions to socio-economic challenges facing them. The event focused on 3 major themes, the first being assessing the impact of COVID-19 and the pandemic itself on the healthcare system here in Gauteng. Secondly, assessing the response of GP in relation to GBV faced by young women and also the assaults on the LGBTQI+ community. The third was examining the skills development strategy in addressing youth unemployment. Today, we come and we bring you a round table to give you the highlights and everything that was discussed on Wednesday. My first panelist this morning is Honorable Chairperson of the GPL, who holds the portfolio of Chairperson of the GPL himself, Honorable Matume Chilwane. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Nati, and good morning to your listeners and viewers today.
Wednesday was a monumental moment for us as South Africans, and a moment where we had to listen and sit back. As the man who convened the discussion with these 45 very intelligent youths, can you take us through what went down on Wednesday, and then we'll go through some of the pertinent questions and issues that we have to address.
Thank you very much. Wednesday proceeded very well. The debates, you pick it up from the youth themselves today, how they were well prepared. You could see they were researched, and really they did come up with great solutions. I mean, areas that they were able to cover. Even I myself, as a policymaker or lawmaker, I could see that there were a lot of blind spots I had, you know. It was quite a great event. And in the main, what makes us happy as the legislature, or rather now MPLs, is that we do have something concrete to take forward. We do have something that we can resolve in our house so that we can take up to the executive, to the departments for implementation. And what is great furthermore is that it has timelines, it has milestones. You know, they didn't come up with resolutions that are open-ended. It's something that you could see, you could sense that it can be delivered at a certain period in time, and that goes to the concern that we were speaking about earlier, myself and yourself. Briefly, that it shouldn't be a talk shop. So to eliminate talk shop, you need timelines, deliverables, you need milestones. You need to be able to gauge how far, and you need to commit. And I think the resolutions that they've brought forward are committable, are pragmatic, are something that we can be implemented, and are something that they can hold us as lawmakers accountable to. So it was a good session. It's an annual event, and what is good is that the next event, it happens again, they will have an ability to really hold us accountable, that before we proceed to the next issue, what happened to these ones? These were the timelines, how far you know, and it doesn't have to be a youth sector virtual parliament like we did. It can be in between. There will be a lot of engagement with the youth of our province, noting that Gauteng is a youthful province.
It is indeed a youthful province, and it's a powerful province, especially when it comes to socioeconomic issues. I think we lead by example, and we do what we say. And what's important is the energy that the youth carry through the youth sector parliament, and the energy that they will carry throughout South Africa. So, Chairperson, if you'll allow me to shift my focus to the very youth that we're speaking about, and the very youth that is bringing us the solutions to the challenges that we're faced with. But as you said, who have gone through and have found all the loopholes, have dotted their I's, crossed their T's to ensure that today's dispensation is not better than tomorrow, because we have to make sure that tomorrow is better than today. Allow me to move over to our three panelists who are representing the Gauteng Provincial Legislature and the Virtual Sector Parliament for the youth of Gauteng. I'd like to start with Vuyokazi Mogale. She's representing the city of Johannesburg. Vuyokazi, good morning. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Nati. I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm good, thank you. Wednesday must have been a prolific day for you, and that's why we're asking you to represent this specific theme when it comes to assessing the impact of COVID-19. Trust me, nobody ever expected this global pandemic, and also, I guess what we can call a plague, we'll be able to call it a plague in some years to come. As frightening as it may seem, we find ourselves in this current dispensation. It's affecting youth unemployment, and you have a lot to say about it.
Yes, I do.
The floor is yours.
Okay, firstly, I will start by advising the Department of Health to look into traditional ways to cure the COVID-19. Science is not the answer to everything. There is African indigenous medicine from indigenous spiritual leaders. Greetings, the radio presenter, Unati, my fellow colleagues, honorable members, the chairperson, and listeners, as well as the viewers. I am Unoluvuyo Vuyokazi Mogale. I am from Commission 1, which was assessing the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the healthcare system in Gauteng and employment of the young people in the Department of Health. Our presentation was divided into two, the challenges as well as the resolutions. Firstly, our challenges were as follows. Under challenges, we focused on the challenges on the healthcare system. Firstly, it was the shortages of protective clothing and supplies at some local hospitals like Charlotte Maxaki. Secondly, was the rising of safety issues affecting employees and patients is generally avoided. So the inadequacy of PPE, which is a personal protective equipment when attending patients that are possibly infected by the virus. Thirdly, were videos filmed inside hospitals were publicly shared showing patients with COVID-19 being treated in general wards separated by only curtains. The challenges of the employment in the Department of Health during COVID-19 are as follows. Firstly, over 60 billion rand was allocated to the department. Yet this did not translate to a direct benefit on the youth of Gauteng. Sorry?
Go ahead, my darling. Gabelo is busy fixing his room and he's making a noise, and we shall tell him, we'll ask him politely, Gabelo, as you fix your room, kindly do not make too much noise. You're distracting Uvuyo. Guys, please, my darling. It's okay. Uvuyo, guys, you were at the point where you were analyzing the the budgets that was allocated for PPE, as opposed to what we actually saw and what we actually saw being used for our protection. So that was the point where you can continue from.
Thank you. Over 60 billion rand was allocated to the department, yet this did not translate to a direct benefit on the youth of Gauteng. The budget would have went a long way had it been used appropriately. Secondly, the second challenge of employment under the Department of Health is earmarking temporary vacancies with the below living wage stipends was also ineffective, as the effects of COVID-19 are still going to be felt for a long time and are not temporary. We can be sure that COVID-19 is going to be amongst us for a very long time. So why are there only temporary vacancies available in the Department of Health? Thirdly, the youth-owned businesses were not prioritized during the procurement process. There were many allegations of undue payments to companies which did not supply goods and services. The businesses of young people is the future of the economy. We advise that the government invests in the future of South Africa. Lastly, some people who applied for the distress grant were declined, even though eligible. On average, 33% of all social relief and distress grants every month were rejected. Then we move into the resolutions. The resolutions to the challenges in the healthcare system. Firstly, we advised that the department should intervene in the grievances of the healthcare workers and their safety. They should mitigate risk to their mental health and physical strain. Secondly, any pending investigations and allegations of the COVID-19 procurement and relief program which had corruption should be firmly acted on, as it is not just about money but lives too. So we should really approach corruption and take it head on and make sure that it is fixed. Solutions to the challenges of youth employment in the department during COVID-19. The first solution that we came up with is that the government should prioritize spending on youth-owned enterprises as well. Then the youth can provide goods to hospitals such as Charlotte Matlake. Secondly, young, vibrant, energetic spirits are needed to provide crucial services like testing, the rollout of the vaccine programs, mitigating lockdowns, screening, and enforcing social distancing, nutrition services, etc. This could be undertaken by the Gauteng Department of Health as a youth brigade. Similar to how we have youth brigades at schools, we can have a national youth brigade where the youth actually goes out to help and make sure that the distance is kept and make sure that people are wearing their masks, and also help out in the rollout of the vaccine. We further said the same way in which the government rolls out elections. You find election spaces at schools, you find election spaces everywhere you go. Let's do the same with the vaccine. Can the stations where people can get the vaccine be all over and around us? And in those stations, utilize the youth, use the youth it wants to be used. And thirdly, by doing away with requirements of experience for entry level for jobs such as the youth brigade, the Department of Health will see overwhelming number of people offering their services. And lastly, the national and provincial departments should coordinate with each other to establish enterprise incubation programs and service delivery projects that hire and train young people in essential spaces of delivery. So we are saying, offer young people experience, train young people, how can they then service and help the Department of Health? Although these challenges are a reality right now, in future, we hope that through the contribution of this report by the Commission of the Youth Sector Parliament of 2021, they won't have to be a reality any longer. Thank you.
Well, guys, thank you so much for your presentation. you're very articulate in the things that are affecting the youth, and as Chairman said, you blew my mind because there's so many loopholes in everything that you have stated. It's a reality that we're dealing with this as a human race for the very, very first time. I loved your very first point, and I want you to take me through some questions that I have for you before I move on to the next theme, which is GBV with Osborne. The first thing you mentioned, and it speaks to who we are as a people, who we are in how we live, who we are in how we heal, and who we are in bettering ourselves physically. Science versus African medicines. Does it have to be versus? Can it not be in conjunction, in conclusion, in collaboration with? Are there any suggestions that were brought up by the 45 youths that were speaking in Parliament on Wednesday with regards to the symbiotic process and relationship that possibly scientific, well, Western medicines have with as in collaboration with African medicines as well, because all of it is medicinal. It just depends on the approach, the belief, and how it's utilized amongst our people. Can you take me through that before I ask you a few more questions?
Okay, regarding our own traditional medicine, firstly, we should be aware that the pills that you get from hospitals are actually from plants, are actually from herbs.
Or plant extracts that have been chemicalized and put into a pill this big.
Exactly. So so science and traditional medicine can work together in that sense, because what we can do is we can find out from people, African people who are aware of traditional medicines. They're often referred to as amagedla. People who are aware of these traditional medicines and can know how to utilize them. And also they can work together with science to say, okay, this is what we believe can heal the people. Can you look into it? Can you check if it may be poisonous in any form, and can that also be distributed to the people? Because at the end of the day, it is who we are.
I think another conversation that could be had amongst our leaders and with our neighboring countries as well. Neighboring countries who have told the globe that they believe in our medicines that grow from the grass. So, you know, examples from Mauritius, Seychelles, Nigeria, Senegal, those kind of nations that have openly said they're not going to deny who we are as a people and our traditional medicines, and they'll work in collaboration with Western medicines to provide the best solution for our people. Another point you raised, and I absolutely love that, is in terms of budgets that have been allocated, you make specific reference to the 60 billion. I love the fact that you are saying that next time it should be audited, next time there should be people in place to vet the companies that are given these things, because as you highlighted, we need to stop looking at this as a temporary situation. This is our forever, this is our reality for a long time to come. We look back and we speak of the Spanish flu that was around over a century ago, over 101 years ago, and that lasted 3 years. And that lasted 3 years with no travel and no kind of technology that we have. So we have greater challenges. So you're right in saying that temporary solutions need to be reversed and they need to be made into permanent solutions, and the youth needs to be involved when it comes to that. Take me through your suggestion. I love what you said about vaccine stations. Let me put it bluntly. Basically, what you said, Vuyokazi, is the same passion government comes at us with. That same energy, they come and they penetrate our schools, they penetrate our malls, they penetrate our streets when they're telling us who to vote for. They need to bring that same energy and bring the vaccination stations to the people and stop expecting the people to find the vaccination stations. And this is where they can employ a great number of youths at all these vaccination points. Please break that down for me.
Okay, I'll firstly start by elaborating the answer that a point that I forgot to mention is that the government should also look into approaching spiritual leaders and look into approaching people that can guide them into finding the appropriate medicine, similar to how Madagascar has done it. Let's not
it's all option E, all of the above when it comes to the expertise, when it comes to the land that can heal us naturally.
And then secondly, taking you through the suggestion that we had rather of the vaccine station. So what we think is exactly as you say, the same passion in which the government has in terms of making sure that we vote should be the same passion that they use for vaccine stations. So at schools, at churches, in different places, I think there should be vaccine stations in each community, especially the rural areas. We have our elders who don't even know how to apply to get the vaccine. We have people who are over 65 who don't know how to apply to get the vaccine. Isn't that where we should employ the youth? Isn't that where we should utilize the youth? What we are saying is get the youth together in these different communities from the community itself, so you know for sure that you're getting people and that the youth across all borders of across all corners of South Africa will be part of this initiative. Take the youth from the community, use that youth to serve the community in those specific vaccine stations, and in so doing, then you're going to employ more youth. So that's what we were talking about there, ma'am.
Thank you so much for your presentation and chatting to us. So as you millennials say, we need to normalize it. So instead of making it temporary, we need to permanize it and make it permanent for all of you. Thank you so much for your contribution. All the best.
Thank you.
What an astute, articulate young lady. All the best with everything that you desire. May all your dreams come true, and may you go into becoming a wonderful, powerful leader that we need here in South Africa. That was indeed Vuyokazi Mogale, representing the city of Johannesburg, speaking on the impact of COVID-19 and the pandemic on our healthcare system and helping us find solutions. I'd like to move on to our second theme that was touched on Wednesday when it comes to the Youth Sector Parliament and today's roundtable. Representing Ekurhuleni, speaking on assessing the response of GP in relation to GBV faced by young women and also the assaults on the LGBTQI plus community. We have Osborne Makola here with us at the roundtable. Good morning, Osborne. Are you still with us?
Good morning, Unathi. I'm still with you. Good morning to you and the listeners of Kaya FM.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Osborne can't be with us in terms of video. We've got network issues, but telephonically we can hear you properly. And that's really what we want to hear. We want to hear your voice in the minds of the 45 youths that were at the Parliament virtual engagement on Wednesday. We're talking about the response of GP in relation to GBV faced by young women. Are you happy? We aren't.
We are definitely not happy, particularly as young people.
Yeah.
But however, we are those progressive young people that says that hashtag this must fall and hashtag this must rise. So in our level of unhappiness, we are going to propose what is it that should be done so that we are all happy at the end of the day. Firstly, allow me to take this opportunity and thank the progressive Gauteng Province Legislature, led by the Honorable Premier David Makura and the entire collective for giving us as young people such a platform to raise our views and our voices, because for far too long, the voices of young people have been suppressed. And also, I think I speak on behalf of every young person to say that as young people, we have died and resigned to a life of nothingness and to a state of hopelessness. Unathi, let me also take this opportunity and thank the young people of Gauteng for entrusting me and electing me as their chairperson to lead the Commission of Gender-Based Violence. The commission, in its reflections, provides a deep and an honest review on the tough year that it was. As we had convened the sitting, it goes without saying that the year 2020 and 2021 has proved to be difficult for us all, given the immense changes caused by the global pandemic, namely COVID-19. Our institutional resilience was tested, and we concur it is out of our united actions that we pull through. Our resilience could not be effective in the absence of a stable leading legislative government in the Gauteng province. In this regard, once more, we want to express the appreciation to capable Premier David Makura, as well as the entire collective. However, the sitting was convened after His Excellency President Madamela Ramaphosa has called on the nation, if you'd remember very well, to wear black in mourning the victims of gender-based violence, being the second worst pandemic on the 25th to the 29th of November 2020. That is what, Unathi, I want us to note first, that yes, the president called on us as a country to wear black in mourning the deaths of those that died in gender-based violence. We are also calling for the very same energy to be taken into consideration in putting prevention measures so that we don't have to wear black in mourning the victims that died of and that are still suffering from gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is a national crisis. Not a day goes by without getting news of an abused woman or a child in the hands of the men they had entrusted to protect and love them. With the launch of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and femicide, we ought to think deeply about our actions as a society. We must be determined in providing solutions and significantly scaling down the abuse, rape, and killing of men, women, and children in this country. That we be committed and be firm in our resolve to tackle this gender-based femicide pandemic with great vigor, with maximum pressure to our justice system to protect and prosecute. Unati, we began our year with optimism, zeal, and commitment to improve our previous efforts of continuing to serve the people of this Gauteng province by addressing issues related to our communities, particularly issues of gender-based violence. However, there is still room of improvement that the government can still adopt in addressing the issue of the second worst pandemic in this country, known as gender-based violence. Allow me to take you through the systems that the province put in place in handling and dealing with the issue of gender-based violence in the province. The province adopted a swift response to dealing with gender-based violence. And part of that swift response, we would remember that the Gauteng province adopted what is called the 620 gender-based violence brigades, who were able to reach about 40,000 households, and till this day are even still targeting more households. However, we are still saying that the 620 brigades that were launched in Gauteng, it's not enough. We still need more than that. Gauteng has got the very massed population that can get close to about more than 620 people to volunteer as brigades fighting against gender-based violence. As much as we are faced with a high challenge of domestic violence, we still also have a very big burden challenge when it comes to our justice system, particularly in the South African Police Service, whereby we still have some of the police who lack to comply with the Domestic Violence Act in dealing with cases related to gender-based violence. Then you would find that there's a high number of victims of gender-based violence that would even retaliate and not even go report those cases because of the situation and because of the attitude that they're going to be receiving in their stations when they're going to report such cases. Some will even be treated as suspects more than victims. That causes women and children to be reluctant, the LGBTQI society to be reluctant in reporting cases of gender-based violence. Also, we note that the province has identified 8 hotspots within the province of gender-based violence, namely in Dobsonville, Mamelodi East, Tembisa, Diepsloot, in Honeydew, Alexandra, Morocco, and in the Orange Farm. The reason for such a vigorous identification of these hotspot areas is contributed by the fact that the department failed to ensure that gender-based violence victims are adequately informed of the support system that they have in place to assist such victims that are suffering from gender-based violence. If the department can use its facilities adequately so, and not only just facilities, but also their budget. When we speak of budget, Unati, you would remember that the Gauteng province went into an initiative of funding 98 NPOs across the province to deal with the issue of combating gender-based violence. And we also believe that if proper funding can be pumped into those 98 NPOs into curbing the spread of gender-based violence, that can assist us as a province to totally eradicate gender-based violence. But also, not only just the funding of the 98 NPOs, because out of the 98 NPOs, 70 of those NPOs, they could not account for the funding that they were given to, which is a problem that we are faced with. Money is given for people that are victims that are supposed to be protected, but the very same people that receive this money, they no longer do what is their due diligence of protecting these individuals, but they go into feeding their own stomachs. And that is a culture that we need to do away as a society in order to totally eradicate gender-based violence. Also, the statistics remain grim. It goes without saying that gender-based violence contributes significantly to the disease burden of this country. It's shocking as I address you this morning, Unati, that our statistics are sitting at 51% of women who have experienced gender-based violence, and with 76% of men saying that they have perpetrated against those women. Also, the strict regulations of COVID-19, they contributed immensely, particularly when we were under lockdown level 5 and lockdown level 4, as a high number of cases were reported of gender-based violence. And we are saying that as a commission, we are calling on government to ensure that it puts in proper systems in place. By proper systems in place, what do we mean by that? Prevention is better than cure. We are spending millions as government in putting in corrective measures, in putting in correctional measures where we should be putting in prevention measures. What do I mean by saying prevention measures? For instance, we need to look into the educational sector. It plays a fundamental role. What do I mean that it plays a fundamental role? If our education was not politicized and colonized, it would teach a young child from an early age that it is wrong. That is wrong. It is wrong to rape. It is wrong to sexually abuse a person. It is wrong to violently bully in school. If such were happening, we wouldn't have had the great Vanda Queen that was murdered and brutally killed because of a violating bullying tactic act in a school. We wouldn't be having such things if our departments were playing a collaborative role. This is not only just this issue of the social development. It's not only just the issue of the South African Police Service. It's not only just the issue of this Department of Education in Gauteng. It's the issue of each and every stakeholder, even ourselves as the community. We need to play a major role. Also, accountability, Unati, it's very important because yes, women report cases, children report cases, the LGBTQI report cases, but when we then follow up, it's only 15% of those cases that are reported that get to be prosecuted. It's one thing to make an arrest. Yes, we can mention a statistics of saying that 55 people had been arrested because of gender-based violence. But when you look at the statistics of prosecution, you only find out that out of that 55, only 5 are prosecuted successfully so, and the others are not found guilty by the court of law. So even our justice system is still also failing us to ensure that we put accountability at its vast scale. So we need to ensure that we also look into our justice system, that our justice system prosecutes all those that are unjust towards the system. And when we say prosecute, they need to be given a heavy punishment. Correctional measures are very expensive. What do I mean by that? Yes, we take a person to rehabilitation and correctional services, whereby we are going to also still be wasting the taxpayers' money because those people, they need to be fed in those prisons. It's money again that needs to be taken out, when instead we can prevent this thing by educating them, educating the society, liberating our society from a very young age, dealing with the mind, and also readdressing the social injustices of the past. And also, I think it's important that I mentioned that as young people, we've got a responsibility. Yes, we have dined and resigned to a life of nothingness. Yes, we are under a strict lockdown of COVID-19, but it's our responsibility to come, because as young people, we are energetic and we are in the majority, particularly in the Gauteng province. We need to start NPOs that are addressing this issue of gender-based violence, not only just gender-based violence, NPOs that are addressing the issue of economy. We need economic literacy in our country. We need young people to be the forefront drivers of such initiatives. We need young people to come back and become a force of change, because as young people, yes, we have been suppressed for far too long, but this is the time. The time has came for us to take the responsibility and fight against the injustices that are happening against young people. And also, I'm calling on young people to be active also in politics, in political decision-making structures. Young people need to be there so that we do away with the culture of eldership that are taking decisions on our behalf, who are not experiencing gender-based violence, who are not experiencing femicide, who are not experiencing humiliation and attacks against gender-based LGBTQIs. We as young people are in the forefront of experiencing such injustices. We need to take part in such decision making. And I'm also calling on the Gauteng Legislature as well to say that their motto is that your view is our vision. It's high time legislature go back to its people on the ground. They need to go back on the people on the ground, and they need to hear what the people are saying. They need to hear the cries of our people on the ground level, which is gender-based violence. The statistics are growing on a daily basis. We need somebody to take accountability. We did not elect MPLs to sit in offices by Watamahita. We did not do that. We want them to take accountability, and they need to come back and account. And as a commission, we are saying to them that we are calling to them. We've submitted resolutions to them, and we're asking them to come back to us in the next 30 days with the resolutions to say how far are they in amending the resolutions that we have given them as a commission. Thank you very much, Unati. I'll pause here for now.
Osborne, your presentation speaks to every part of our community, and I love you for being and commend you for being so articulate, but also for paying so much attention to the different sectors and the different challenges that we may face. I think as soon as we say GBV, people look at it as a blanket experience, but what you've managed to successfully do is break it down in all its complexity and highlight so many issues that we need faced. Google recently released a report saying they were alarmed at the growing searches, Google searches of people. And one of the most popular searches during the pandemic was, how do I beat her without leaving marks? And that's on a global scale. So you must understand, if the whole world is becoming more violent and more vicious towards women, but also towards gender inequality, you must understand that South Africa, we being the epicenter of abuse of, when it comes to GBV, how many Google searches our people have been doing. So thank you for that. You highlight that 16 days of activism once a year is merely not enough, because what that does for us is, as you said, it makes us remember that we need to mourn in Black, as opposed to making sure that we prevent even having to mourn for such a reason anyway. You know, coming from a country that has suffered so much inequality when it comes to merely color, sexuality shouldn't be one of the reasons why we abuse our people. But we know, as you were saying, hurt people hurt people. So we need to find ways to rehabilitate so that we don't find ourselves reliving the cycle over and over and over again, like a hamster in a hamster wheel, so that we start rehabilitating while we're punishing as well. But how do we do that when our police is not equipped, right? How do we do that when our victims get to police stations and policemen and women don't even know how to use rape kits so that they can be used in our courts? Have they received the training, our policemen and women, to deal with GBV? Because as Uwe Ogazi was saying, the pandemic is no longer a temporary thing. And the way that we look at GBV violence shouldn't be temporary as well. Yes, it's something new that we're finally speaking about that's been happening for many, many decades. But now we need to start looking at it as a permanent problem that we need to have permanent solutions to. So are our policemen and women being trained properly when it comes to GBV? You know, we see how they just open arms when it comes to our rioting. So that should tell you the experience they have with GBV as well. Do we have enough rape kits? And do we know what to do with them? Because we do need to start making this count in our justice systems and in our courts as well. You mentioned something about accountability, and I love that. I want you to visit something that I haven't heard of, and I think it's such a wonderful thing. But as you said, we need to amplify it and make it bigger. What are these brigades you were referencing to? What is their purpose, and what do they do when they get to people's homes? How can we expect them, and when can we expect them to visit our homes, and how can we amplify this? And as you were saying, make sure that more people can become part of the brigades, and more brigades can reach people's homes where they feel safe and where they feel trusted as well. Please take me through that. I found it very interesting.
Okay. In the launch of the 620 brigades that were launched by the Premier in November last year. One thing I would like to commend the Gauteng province, because they had ensured that the brigades they go through a vigorous training of dealing with gender-based violence. Basically, what the brigades were doing, it was to raise awareness because remember, we're still in the middle of the pandemic, and that is where a high number of cases were reported on gender-based violence. So what the brigades were doing, they were collecting information from households as to saying that in this particular household, how are the living conditions in this household? How are you handling the coronavirus, and how are you dealing with the coronavirus in terms of the balancing of forces, particularly within each and every household? The brigades, they have the responsibility to go and collect the information, but also to offer counseling support. I think I also need to mention this. The department also deployed about 8 social workers per region in ensuring that they deal with gender-based violence. However, their main focus also with the 620 brigades was to ensure that men receive adequate support. Because I would say to you, Unati, the same energy, and I'm also saying this to Gauteng Legislature, the same energy that is used to create a problem, we can't use the same energy to fix the problem. What do I mean by that? Collecting the data, keeping it there for internet purposes is not enough. Yes, we will see the progress that information is collected, but what happens to the information that is collected, it's very important. For instance, when we collect in a household to find out these are the material conditions in this particular household, which is what the brigades were doing, and also informing the households to say this is how you deal with certain issues, we need to come back and check. When we speak of accountability, we need to check what is called key performance indicator. How far were we able to get? Where did we fail? We need to come and do evaluations, and that is where government is failing when it comes to accountability. 500 billion is missing, but nobody's accounting for that. But I'm not there. I'm speaking about accountability on gender-based violence. We need.
I think it's accountability, Osborne, and what I love about what you and Virgaz are saying, it's accountability on all forms, but this is something the chairperson had indicated as well. It's about KPIs.
To have a systematic approach. This is
to have your KPIs and to have deadlines when it comes to that. Because there's no point in us having these kind of roundtables annually if we can't hold people accountable, as you're saying, Osborne, and give them deadlines and say, we had given you 30 days for this. Virgaz, we had given you 90 days for this. This was the KPI that was given to you. How far have you come with that KPI? And have you reached the deadline as well? Because I think this, this is what we would like, and these are the problems, and these are the solutions, and hopefully someday you'll be able to find the solution. That hasn't helped us. So now we need to be more rigorous. We need to have more timelines when it comes to the things that we need solved. I agree with you. Thank you so much for that, Osborne. Allow me, please, ladies and gentlemen, to move on to our final panelist representing Sedibeng, and we're talking about examining the skills development strategy in addressing youth unemployment. Kabelo, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today. You need to unmute your mic, please, my darling. Unmute your mic.
Good morning, Sis Nati. Good morning to the KFM listeners.
Good morning. Welcome to this morning's roundtable, and thank you for being a part of the conversation that was had by 45 youths on Wednesday. You're talking about skills development, and it's something that has been worrying me for a very, very long time. We, my generation, we used to have so much. We used to have career guidance classes literally every single week. We used to have skills development, and they would teach us woodwork and different skills, and it's something I worry about, because you don't even have like guidance when it comes to what you want to do for the rest of your lives, never mind the skills to be able to do so. Take us through Wednesday and some of the conversations that were had and some of the highlights you want us to focus on today and the solutions to highlighting those things.
Thank you very much. Well, it was pretty nice, and it was pretty informative to hear the youth at large, like Gauteng, what are our pointers of views and what we see as major hurdles the economy that we live in. In terms of skills development, well, we were more on the point of unemployment, which is a result of the lack of skills development. But we pointed out, well, we cannot conquer the poverty, unemployment, and inequality problem, particularly conditions that are faced by youth today, without looking into the historic background that has led us into this problem. We noticed capital is a major root problem, and our colonial history still burdens in our schooling curriculum. So, what also we noticed, our schooling curriculum is of a colonial agenda. I mean, it prepares us to be laborers and not champions of our own economic conditions. So we realized for Ugoti, the schooling conditions of today, particularly in rural and township schools, they are still familiar to the schooling conditions of 1976, for example. We still produce laborers, we still produce people that are more of a needy nature, more than people that are manufacturers and producers of our own needs. An example that we pointed out was that we have made.
Gabelo, may I suggest, because we keep losing you, but your points are so pertinent, may I suggest the same way as Osborne, you switch off your video and we connect with you telephonically so we can hear you. We lost you a little when you were talking about how do we break the dependency that is cultivated on a school level when it comes to our skills, and turn that over from dependency to manufacturers and producers of our own resources, but also of our own economy. That's where we lost you.
Yeah, so in further speaking to that, like we realized that the end result, but
Gabelo, we keep losing you, my darling. I think, Gabelo, let us know when you're back. But Chairperson,
but they actually don't have anything to contribute with it. The only thing that they know is how to. I don't know, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Please continue, yes.
So we need a more decolonized curriculum. We need a more Afrocentric curriculum. We need a curriculum that speaks more to us. An example would be the majority of of people here are Black African people. Now we are people of melanin nature and we eat the sun. We are more likely to develop and be better of ourselves when we spend 9 till 11 o'clock in the morning, when we spend that time in the sun, whether we do agriculture, whether we do sports, that will bring out the best in us. Not sitting in classrooms where it's cold and there's no warmth. So we also noticed that our economy is 60% of South Africa's economy is owned by 3 white families. This creates a monopoly. It creates a nature that there's a preference of profit over people. Now, we also pointed out the governing organization of which is the ANC has a document which speaks to radical economic transformation, and this gives power to conquering poverty, unemployment, and inequality. The implementation of that can never be postponed, because now we realize we don't have power. We don't have power within our own economy, particularly decision-making power. Hence, we need to stop asking some other rhetorical questions and start making, and we establish a state-owned bank. We need to expropriate our land without compensation. And we also need to stick to the resolutions of the Congress movement, being the ANC, and enhance our state development agenda through the use of state-owned aims within the leadership of the congressmen, doing things that are against the resolutions of the Congress movement, particularly the privatization of state-owned entity, South African Airways. We see state-owned entities, we know through the document, state-owned entities are meant to be a catalyst of socio-economic transformation. And we note the derailing of these, we note the derailing of these economic transformation agendas as the youth of Gauteng. Thank you very much, Sis Nat.
Gabelo, thank you so much for your presentation, and I wish your Wi-Fi was a little bit stronger. You can switch your video back on now, my darling, and it speaks to exactly what you've been speaking about. You know, we find ourselves in a fourth industrial revolution that is globally taken over the world, and that is digital. You know, with such a high unemployment rate, Gabelo, you would want certain things to be overcompensated for. You know, when it comes to unemployment, yes, we know the youth is unemployed. So at the very least, can we improve different avenues to make it a little bit easier for the youth? One of them, socioeconomically, which is Wi-Fi, access to the rest of the world, access to the fact that you can get information, but also sell yourselves as artisans with the limited skills that you have. And these are the ups and downs, the pros and cons, the gives and takes that we should be considering when it comes to giving the youth hope when it comes to employment and the skill set. I love the fact that you do highlight the fact that it is a capitalism, and our education system is still based on colonialism. Breaking my heart when you say 60% of our economy is owned by 3 white families. How do we do that? How do we reverse that? How do we make sure that the majority of the country has the majority of the economy? When we talk about land, when we talk about money, when we talk about resources, when we talk about manufacturing, and when you talk about production as well. You highlight something so simple and yet so powerful, which is the melanin in our skin and the sun that God has given us. I grew up in England, and I know very, very well what it's like to grow up in a country that has no sun for 10 months of the year. So what you are saying is very pertinent, and it should be a power that we use as an African people. Our sunsets are unlike any sunsets in the world. Our sunrises, our dawns are unlike any in the world. Our soil is so fertile, like any other place in the world. Why aren't we redirecting our skills to empower ourselves? Because then we produce our own food, we produce our own produce. And as you were saying, we don't have money, but we have the skills, the power, the bodies, and the mind, right? So why don't we start going back to who we were as a people before colonialism took over? And why don't we start reintroducing our barter system, assisted by government? Because then we are trading in our skills, and we are taking away the power from capitalism, and we're bringing back the power to our people and who we are and what we have, and that's how we could trade. I love your presentation, and I love all 3 of you. I think you are very, very powerful youths that have a lot to say, and a lot to say that the likes of our chairperson, Chairperson Chulwane, can learn from, but also understands that he has KPIs and there's a deadline. Chairperson, are you willing to close off today's debate? You guys are phenomenal. Thank you for the education that you've given us, and thank you for being ruthless and unapologetic about going into the loopholes and seeing where government is missing out, and giving advice, sound advice, from what you are experiencing and not what you are hearing from other person. Over to you, Chairperson, to close off today's conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. As I've told you earlier, that there was a lot of energy, and what makes me very happy is that they are a woke generation. You could sense that. They are a woke generation. It's no longer a generation that's been told or been led purely based on this is a leader. You know, a leader must make sense. A leader must be able to say, this is where you are going to be placed at the end of this particular process. You know, so this generation is woke, is very clear. You can hear that, and they really are conscious of what's happening politically, entirely. You know, they know. They said, I mean, if they are able to tell you, for instance, Osborne was speaking about those NPOs and 70 that didn't come, have not reported back on how they utilize the funds. That's being conscious of really what's happening.
Yeah.
And research. You know, it demonstrates they've given themselves time. Kabelo speaking about the curriculum itself. You know, of course, there's a lot to be done, but the curriculum is there. You know, we are going to, the curriculum currently, not to say I'm defending it, but
yes, please don't.
I'm not defending it. Yeah, but obviously much more needs to be done. Yes. The key thing is what from the parliament itself, It's around the future skills. We are going to in the 5th industrial revolution and its effect. Machines are taking over, artificial intelligence coming through. And if we are to put our young people at the center of this development, we need to give them proper skills. Even what we're teaching in our schools must talk to the future. You know, it's pointless to teach young people how to use a forklift, you know, when these forklifts now are electronic. You know, so we need to look beyond. You know, we need to give them AI, we need to teach them robotics. That's why robotics is being taught in grade 1 in our schools now. We're teaching grade 1's robotics currently to prepare them for the future. Future skills, future jobs. Really, they are quite. It's correct, Kabelo, that we need to work on our strength as a country, which you articulated to, that we have the land, and if for instance, to simplify things, if you are to be a communitarian rather, because that's what I'm picking up. The sense is that the young people want to be. They don't want to be. Maybe they are anti-capitalism. I can hear that. So that's good. It's a good start. It's being conscious. They want to be communitarian, and to be a good communitarian, you must be able to help. You know, and to help, you need to innovate what will help society move forward. And that's what they're saying. They need skills that can help them to innovate, so that they can move society forward. You know, and that's wonderful. And Vuyogazi spoke very strongly. The commission as well very strongly, and I'm happy that where there's corruption, they highlighted it. We must not shy away from our problems. You know, where there's a problem, we must be able to confront it, because these ills, you know, if we don't tackle them, it doesn't matter who is there, we'll always be where we are. You know, for society to move forward, we need to confront the ills, eliminate them, shine against them, isolate them, and hopefully, you know, prosecute. You know, we are waiting as legislators for prosecution for those PPE scandals. We are waiting, and truthfully, we can't wait anymore. You know, we're very strong that we are anti-corruption, and where there's corruption, and those who are corrupt must be arrested, because we are withholding, we are delaying society's development. And correctly highlighted that there's much more could have been done. So as I was saying earlier, that the debates, you know, when you go to this youth sector parliament as an MPL, you need to go there with an open mind to say you're going to learn. You know, you don't enter and say you know. There's no knowing. I mean, these are young people who are on a daily basis interacting with our communities, interacting with our society, engaging, sharing ideas. And so for you to be able to really be able to respond, you need to go with an open mind that I'm going to learn. So what we can say now, as I conclude, is that the resolutions, the timelines have been clear. There's 30 days. So we're going to table the report to the House for adoption, which is the legislature. Upon adoption, then we're going to take it to the different departments for implementation. And what we can guarantee is that there will be timelines and there will be feedback. It's not going to be open-ended. I agree. We must move away from an open-ended era. Our leaders must be held accountable. They must be told, if this in so many days, if that doesn't happen, there must be consequence. You know, so I think that one will be able to do, and will be able to give feedback, and we'll come back on Kaya and say, this is what the resolution that were given to us, and this is how far we've gone, and this is what we've implemented, and these are the results. So
I think it's such a powerful tool to be able to have an audience with a youth that is so intelligent and articulate. And I think it's something that you as the legislature need to be thankful for, because very few times do we have opportunities to figure out and hear from the people themselves what exactly it is that they need. And the beautiful thing is that it's the fingers being pointed to you to say, with your power comes great responsibility, comes great accountability. It must be met with humility and grace. And you need to ensure that, as you were saying, we put deadlines to all these things so that you can ensure that you maintain the trust that the youth has in you, because if they didn't trust that you have the power and the energy to change things, they wouldn't waste their time with having these roundtables and attending virtual legislatures. So thank you to you, Chairperson, for your time. Vuyokazi, thank you for your insights and for leading your theme and your sector in the conversation. Osborne, thank you for being so articulate and leading your part of the conversation as well. And Gabelo, we thank you too. As Kaya 959 Chairperson, we're not only going to allow you back, we are going to vigorously chase you, because for the month of June, we've had a manifesto on air, and we've been asking our youth to tell us what they want their manifesto to be, so that we can deliver it as Kaya 959 to the president himself on behalf of the youth. So don't stop talking. Don't stop highlighting what your issues are. We will be listening to you, and we'll make sure that we have to make sure that tomorrow South Africa is better than today. Thank you so much to everybody for crossing over. Thank you to our Kaya listeners. Thank you to our YouTube followers. It is exactly an hour that we've been on air with you today, and we have to bid you adieu. We wish you all the best, and we'll see you soon as we come back and give you the results as to everything we have, because a promise we make is a promise we keep. No more talk shops. KPIs need to be delivered within the deadlines and within the expectations that we expect. Thank you so much to all our panelists this morning. Chairperson of the GPL Portfolio Committee, Honorable Matome Chilwane, thank you for your time. Representing the city of Johannesburg, Vuyokazi Mukhale, thank you for your time presenting on the impact of COVID-19 and the pandemic on the healthcare system. Representing Ekurhuleni, Osborne Makola, thank you so much for talking and touching on the response of GP in relation to GBV faced by young women and men in South Africa. And representing Citibank, thank you to you, Gabelo, for speaking so articulately when it comes to examining the skills development strategy in addressing youth and employment. My name is Unait. On behalf of Kaya 959, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and thank you for your time.